All right, please give it up for our speaker, Brian Ochsner.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. And thanks, everyone, for coming out tonight. I appreciate that, too. As you'll probably see, I'm I'm more of a writer and marketer than a public speaker. But the reason I'm talking tonight is because this message of sovereign food sources is a really important one at this stage in history. Even though the current administration is, more friendly towards improving the food supply with RFK Jr., with make America healthy again. I think that's, definitely. Definitely optimistic about that. But as we know, the wheels of government turn slowly, and I think we can do more for ourselves to improve the food supply and improve better quality food supply than government can on its own. As Josh said, I grew up on a farm and ranch in Kansas, so I've been familiar with growing food all my life. But up until recently, I didn't really take a hard look at how we're growing food and why our current industrial agriculture model is not sustainable, it's not healthy, and it's pretty much dysfunctional. I don't think it's gonna have to. Farmers are already starting to adapt, starting to use fewer as the prices of inputs have gone up. Farmers are starting to use fewer inputs, like it's chemicals and synthetic fertilizers. But it's going to take time for that to change on a large enough scale to make a big difference. So that's why I'm passionate about this issue. If you read the preview to the talk, it mentioned that there was a health incident I had back in 2022, and I'll just go briefly about the story, how it kind of opened my eyes to got me started on this road to regenerative agriculture. So I agreed in the summer of 2022 to help come back to our family farm and help plow fields, do what's called summer fallow. On farms, about half the acreage is planted to crops to be harvested, and then half is left vacant or fallow. You plow the weeds and then get the soil ready for planting. And we raise hard red winter wheat, so it's planted in September and then harvested on the following July or late June. So I wasn't in charge of managing the crop rotation or field rotation. So that year we had like a significant amount more acreage than we normally go over. And I was going over it like each field like 4 or 5 times. So it was a lot of time, a lot of work. And on top of that, before I started the farm work, I took a part-time job doing writing articles on Major League Baseball games for a sports site. So I was working a part-time job doing 10 articles a week and farming. So it turned into really kind of like Groundhog Day. Get up, work, eat, go to bed, get up. It was kind of a crazy cycle. So probably doing easily 60 to 70 hour, work weeks, hours a week or more. And in the process, it basically, I was basically, suffering from exhaustion. It was basically, to make the long story kind of short, came down with a chronic cough and was really, really tired in September and October, just had little to no energy. And then in October, came down with a chronic cough. It wouldn't go away. And then for 2 nights, I just had maybe an hour or 2 sleep. And then I'm watching a football game on Sunday, a Broncos game, and the 2 guys I'm with saying, "Hey, dude, you need to go to ER." So when 2 guys are telling you need to go to ER, you probably ought to listen. So I went to the emergency room. They diagnosed it as a upper respiratory infection, and then I took like a week or 2 to recoup, get healthy, and that summer I was on the farm and just putting long hours in the field. I'm thinking, is this really the best way to grow food? Is this really the best optimum way to do it, and the way God wants us to grow food? And obviously the answer to that is no. So after I recovered and got back to health that fall, came across some videos from a guy named Joel Salatin. Anybody know Joel? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Joel's a great guy. And also another guy in North Dakota named Gabe Brown, who's a regenerative farmer and rancher. And just what they said just made a ton of sense. that you don't need to plow the crap out of your land. You don't need to spray these chemicals on the land to kill weeds. And in fact, I learned there's a natural way to repel weeds and repel pests. And I'll get to that later in the talk. But our current agriculture system, as we know, government generally screws things up and never makes them better. Our current agriculture system was based on three pillars. Number one, affordable, reliable energy. Number two, consistent, reliable supply chains. And number three, government subsidies and programs, which are tailored or slanted, biased towards wheat, corn, soybeans, and cotton. So back in 2020, when a certain virus came on the scene, the supply chains started to be not so reliable, and that was true for a lot of things, not just for food, but also for agricultural parts. In that same summer, when I was back from 2022, we had like numerous breakdowns. It was crazy. It was like God was telling me, like, "Hey, dude, I don't want you to farm. You know, just breakdown after breakdown." We had to call mechanics out, and one time we had to wait about 5 or 6 days to get a replacement part in. And normally it's pretty reliable. It's pretty easy. You know, you call the dealership, the John Deere dealership nearest your hometown, you know, a couple, 3 days, no problem. Well, we kept getting calls back from different dealerships for John Deere saying, okay, it'll be in this town on Wednesday. And say, nope, sorry, it'll be in town B on Thursday. And then we ended up going on a totally different town on 2 days later. So the reason the supply chains are important is because, as you may have heard Joel Salatin talk about, the average distance between where our food is produced to the end consumer is about 1,500 miles, which is crazy. A lot of it's processed foods like cookies, crackers, and so on. But back after World War II in 1946, the average distance was 40 miles. A lot, you know. And as someone who's, you know, grew up in production agriculture and see what's, you know, how the crops are harvested and how it works, what I call the days, you know, the days of the 500-mile loaf of bread and the 3,000-mile Caesar salad are numbered. I'll tell you why. So in rural areas, you harvest the crop, you know, and it goes by truck or rail to, let's say, Denver or maybe central Kansas, Nebraska, where it goes to a mill. It gets milled into flour, baked into bread, and then that bread, because it's going to take time and you know, energy to get it, transport it, and get it on the shelves, they put preservatives and other ingredients to keep it good on the shelf. So preserves the food, kills us. Yep. Exactly, preserves the food and and kills or hurts us. That for sure, right. So anyhow, and it used to be that it was you could do it cheap enough to where it wasn't as sufficient to do it locally, you know, maybe by yourself or a local mill. But nowadays, I'm looking at the grocery store, and an average loaf of bread, not even premium, is like $3-4 a loaf, which is crazy. So I think those days are pretty much are getting numbered. And then when I talk about the 3,000-mile Caesar salad, you've got lettuce, tomatoes, and other, you know, fruits and vegetables in the salad. They're transported from like California and other parts of the country. So that's why I think, because of the cost of, you know, food inflation at the grocery store, we have to find ways of producing food that's shorter, you know, from farm to fork and pasture to plate. And other observations I made just from my, you know, as far as chemicals go, a lot of the ag jobs in my local, where I'm from, in Northwest Kansas, you have a lot of guys work with chemicals. They spray chemicals, transport them, and so on. And I know 3 gentlemen that worked with chemicals for at least 5 to 10 years, and each of them died from a form of cancer. So I put those dots together and I'm like, that's not good. You know, that's pretty obvious that these chemicals are not good for us. And then another story is, so that same summer I was back and had the health issues. I noticed there was this herbicide that we were using on our crops, on our fields, and it was funny. The name of this herbicide was from Syngenta, which is a Chinese-owned company, and it was called Rave. Now, I know who the branding expert was that thought, Rave was a good name for a farming agricultural product. That's the name of it. And there was 3 ingredient items on the 3 line item ingredients. The ingredients. One was like dimethyl something, 54%. Second was something else for 10%. And the last one at 36% was other ingredients. And I'm like, okay, this is screwed up. So being the curious guy that I am, I called Syngenta's headquarters in North Carolina, and this nice lady answered and said, ma'am, I'm looking at your Rave weed killer, and I'd like to know what these other ingredients are in this product. And she was a nice Southern lady and says, well, since it's USDA and FDA approved, we don't have to divulge what those are. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So that was another eye opener as far as, what we're putting on our soil and what's ultimately going in our food. And I'm sure everybody knows about glyphosate, the main ingredient in the glyphosate. Glyphosate? Okay. Okay, being funny here. Okay. I thought, okay. Gotta be there for a minute, but okay. That's fine. But no, and glyphosate, that's multiple class action lawsuits. People have caused cancer and their health problems. And there was a great article in the August 2023 Epoch Times on glyphosate. Really well done piece of journalism that explained what the health challenges it caused to people, to animals, and not just for current generations, but for future generations. And also, what these chemicals do is they also kill microbiology in the soil. And the reason why you want to get good, healthy soil with a lot of carbon, a lot of organic matter, is so it's an environment to where these microorganisms can thrive. One of the major ones is called mycorrhizal fungi, and it helps convert the existing nutrients, like organic nutrients, like your phosphorus, potassium, and so on, to be able to be bioavailable to the crop. And that's the ultimate goal for why you want a more healthier soil and a more carbon with lots of carbon. Carbon also helps improve the water retention, the ability of your soil to retain water. And for every 1% of increase in organic matter, it's about 20,000 gallons per acre, or roughly. It's a significant amount of significant improvement to the soil and the ability to hold water. Plus, it improves the soil infiltration. So if you get a hard rain or you're irrigating or watering a lot, it'll go through to the soil and not run off or lose it to evaporation. So all this, coming together is what caused me to start to write a book on this topic. It's in process right now. It'll hopefully be done the end of this month, maybe first of next month. Working title is The Uncommon Sense Guide to Grow Food for Better Health and Profit. So that'll be out soon. I'll probably have a book signing party, at least one, maybe 2 here in the metro area. So I'll let Josh know about it and advertise it through the Liberty on the Rocks Telegram channel and Facebook, or other social media channels. And also getting back to the natural ways to repel pests and weeds. So farmers and others, tend to use chemicals like Roundup to kill weeds and repel pests. But the cool thing about there's a concept, a measurement in plants. It's known as Brix level, spelled BRIX. And Brix is a measurement of sugar or carbohydrates in a plant. It's similar to what to degrees measure temperature. So the higher the Brix level, the healthier your plant or crop is. And that naturally repels predators like locusts, grasshoppers, and the like. And the reason why is because these predator pests don't have a pancreas. What's relevant about that is we need a pancreas. The function of the pancreas is to process sugar. So when these critters, go to a high Brix plant, the sugar will be enough to repel them, or if they take a bite out of it, they'll get sick and they could even die. Yeah, so that's the reason, and it's obviously something that these chemical and big ag companies don't want you to know about, because if you can raise healthy plants and you don't need a pesticide, well, that's bad for their bottom line. So that's another reason why it's important to grow, higher quality plants and crops. They're more nutrient dense, and obviously to repel pests and
Basically more immune.
exactly very just similar to like with the concept of our immune. Exactly, it's like our immune system in people and animals. The stronger your immune system is, the less likely you are to get sick. Now, there's a lot of factors that involved in that, but that's the main concept as I understand it, and it makes a ton of sense. And the same thing applies when so a similar concept is when it comes to soil health, crop health, and weeds. So for most plants, the ideal pH level is about 6.4. There's some exceptions like blueberries, which I think, if I remember correctly, can handle a lower pH. But 6.4 is generally the sweet spot for most plants and crops. So when you have the right soil pH and the right balance of nutrients and the right amount and balance of nutrients in the soil, what that does is it'll naturally be able to kill off some certain weeds. And farmers and others have been conditioned to look at weeds like something bad. We see a weed, kill it, bad, get it out of here. But really, weeds can tell us a lot about. They're kind of an inexpensive soil test on their own. Normally, ideally, if you have the budget for it, if you're a farmer or a gardener, it's best to get a good soil test so you know what levels of nutrients you have in your soil, whether you have enough of the right nutrients, whether you might have some excessive toxins like aluminum and heavy metals might be detrimental to the plant. But with certain kinds of weeds, they will tell you if your soil is too acidic or too alkaline, and if you're low on, say, like nitrogen or phosphorus or potassium, or you have too much of something else. So there are a couple of books available on the market, and I'm unfortunately I've read those titles, but these books are great resources as far as understanding what weeds are telling you, and what you do to make your soil better. And getting back to our current agricultural model, or where we're at as an industry, another reason I looked at different trends and statistics as to why our system is not sustainable for the long term. So right now, the average age of the American farmer is about 60 years old. So in about like 10, 12, 15 years, a lot of these guys are going to want to retire and move on to retire and enjoy life and transfer it to somebody else. But the problem is there's not all these operations have people who ready to take it over. So it can be pretty expensive if you're going to try and buy an operation or buy into one, for all the machinery, all the equipment, and so on. So that's one reason why I think, as I see it, it's our current agricultural system or model is not sustainable for the longer term. Now, it's not going to go away tomorrow we'll still be able to grow, we're still very good at growing a lot of quantity of food, just not very good, maybe not the quality of food we want. So what I'm looking at is, as far as the book, and then with the, educational, with the website and educational programs afterwards, is to help teach more people how to grow their own food, and also develop a better agricultural model to where we have a larger number of smaller farms instead of a small number of larger farms. Yeah. And preferably shorter distance between farm to fork and pasture to plate. And that's the vision I've come up, that's why I see what needs to happen. I know there'll be a lot of pushback from some farmers who want to do it the same way. Hey, God bless you, more power to you, do it your way. But that's just not the best sustainable model going forward. And another thing that a couple other factors that I saw, when it comes to small grains, is why our system isn't sustainable for the long term, or it's not profitable, is that for years American farmers were, we were known, American farmers feed the world. That was the motto, and up until the mid 2010s, that was true. What changed that though is there was a big drought in 2012, and then that's shot prices, that lowered supplies, obviously, shot prices a lot higher. And these countries like China, Russia, and India are saying, hey, whoa, they got a little sticker shock. And that's when they started to develop their own, learn how to develop their own, grow more of their own food. And over time, countries like China, India, and Russia are growing more of their own food. And now Russia is the largest wheat exporter in the world. And now while the U.S. is still the largest corn producer, Brazil is now the largest exporter of corn and soy in the world. And they're partnering with China. China has 1 billion mouths to feed. So that's why they want to ensure a more steadier and more reliable food supply, along with their own production. So I saw foreign demand going down for grains, along with domestic demand going down for grains, as more people want, when it comes to meats anyway, they want grass-fed meats instead of grain-fed. So that's another factor. There was a study back in 2021 that about a third of people wanted to reduce or eliminate the amount of grain or gluten in their diet. And I think given that trend is I'm not sure what the latest numbers on that are, but the only way I see it going is basically just continuing to go up as people get more educated on, there's more studies coming out on how wheat is not good, grains are not good for people in general. We're not really meant to eat grains. And corn, we all know about corn, high fructose corn syrup, seed oils. They're also not very, very healthy as well. So, anyway, I know this may be kind of a rambling, somewhat of a rambling presentation, but hopefully it gives the reasons why that I think we need to develop, alternative and sovereign food sources. We can't wait for government to do anything about it, or agriculture to shift, because agriculture is not a quick changing industry. Like Silicon Valley and techies out there, they'll have 20 new ideas by noon. They'll be ready to turn on a dime. But agriculture doesn't work that way. So given the rate of change in government and agriculture, that's why I think it's better to start to learn to grow more of our own food, find better, develop farming models where it's not, large number of smaller farms that can go direct to consumer or the minimum middlemen, and have a better and healthier food supply for people. And that's it. So thanks for your time and attention. I appreciate it.
Questions?
Leaf. Yeah.
In your.
No, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Am I second?
Yeah.
In your book, are you going to talk about composting?
Yes, absolutely. Composting, also biochar, and the use of earthworms are a great way to it's called an agriculture hack, to improve your soil health. Earthworms are great, for sure.
What was the other thing you said?
Compost, biochar, And earthworms, yeah.
Wildfires burned up ashes and stuff, right?
Correct.
So, with the demographic shift that you mentioned, the average age of the farmer being 60, in 10 to 15 years, what do you think is going to be the scenario of farming, like in America, given the change? And I'm thinking there aren't many, purple-haired people that are saying, "Yeah, we're going to produce a lot of food on a large scale to feed a lot of people."
Good question. I think there's an increased number of people who want to farm, and it kind of goes across the political spectrum. Believe it or not, even the purple hair hippies and the MAGA people and anyone in between. I think a growing number of people younger people are want to get away from the cities. They want to go to a more rural community, and for a quieter, simpler life. So I mean, time will tell, but I just think that that's why I say the current model of agriculture is going to have to adapt and change. So I think you might be surprised at who you see on certain farms. Because I've seen some YouTube videos with different kinds of people. Again, all across the political spectrum. So I think the market is kind of, I think the free market is kind of filling that gap, so to speak. But yeah, I just think that our current ag model with, large acreages, big machines, and plowing and spraying the crap out of it, I just don't think that's sustainable for the long term.
Thanks. Or is this on? It is on. All right. It's just cardioid microphone. Actually, you're playing a perfect straight man for me on this one, because I got two businesses right now. I come from the technology, high-tech world, grew up in Iowa, didn't want to have a damn thing to do with farming. And now I'm turned into a farmer, more or less. I'm coming right back to my roots. So, funny how that works. One is, building on what you said to create healthier foods and going from the chemical agriculture to what I call now technical agriculture, using science and technology to grow better. And that includes soil amendments, bringing certain foods could be grown inside more efficiently and cost effectively than the way that we're doing it currently. And especially where, we pick our foods in Mexico, Central Valley of California, South America, before they're ripe. We bring them up here. We ripen them actually via ethylene gas, either off of Tijon Street or over off of I-70 here. Mm-hmm. And that's why today, a lot of you will remember maybe that are old farts like ourselves, walking into a produce department and it actually smelled like something. Today, it doesn't smell like anything. That's because our food's sterile, So one thing we're doing is we are helping growers, indoor growers especially, convert into the technical agriculture by taking advantage of light and the Emerson effect on plants, which allow plants and all living organisms respond differently to different wavelengths of light, including adjusting Brix levels and potassium, calcium, and how plants grow. And so what we do is we make LED lights, which are very cost effective, very energy efficient, to grow things better. The other thing we're doing is recognizing the food deserts we have and the dependency we have on big agriculture is we've created a concept called AgriState. And what AgriState is doing is taking some of the empty commercial buildings we have and converting them over to indoor grow facilities. And we're working with a couple commercial developers here in town that have plenty of empty property, and they're willing to work with us to convert them into grow centers and even data centers. The two are very synergistic. So, taking that a bit further and building on that, and having a distributed food supply. Elray, for instance, has problems getting food. We're working with the community gardens there to help build greenhouses for them to do that. So,
Okay. No, good points.
So perfect situation.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
pick up on what you're doing. And entrepreneurs are grasping and getting hold of this. And so we are hopefully going to see, like you said, a revolution in agriculture. And if JFK Jr. now that he's one step closer to getting, confirmed, maybe the Maha movement will get some legs. Sorry for monopolizing.
No,
You were
that's
a
a
straight
good.
fan for me.
Oh, thanks. No, that's great. That's great that you're doing that, because I thought that's a lot of these big commercial buildings that are being abandoned. That's a great use for them, for sure. And whether you're growing indoor or outdoor, the fundamentals are still the same. So I go with Gabe Brown's six principles. And I was trying to remember off the top of my head. One is grow crops in context of your environment. Number 2, armor on the soil. Minimum soil disturbance, which means minimum tillage. Exactly. And after tilling a shitload of acres in Kansas, I was like, hallelujah, yes. I was glad to hear that. But yeah, I think whether you're growing indoor or outdoor, just stick with the fundamentals, those 6. And yeah, the light and technology can help too. But if you stick to those 6 fundamental principles of Gabe's, I think it's pretty. You're on pretty solid foundation. Okay.
What was that again? 6 principles?
Yeah, it's Gabe Brown's. You can find it online. Gabe Brown's 6 principles of regenerative agriculture. And I'll try to remember all. Let's see. Grow crops in context. Armor on the soil, which means cover crops. 3, minimum tillage. The last one, let's see, is introduce animals to the soil, and it's hard to do. I know it's hard to do in an urban or suburban area. Earthworms are your best option. HOAs might frown on horses or chickens, but that's right. But yeah, no livestock. And one additional thing, when you introduce livestock to the soil, that's the best. That's really, you don't have to, but for optimum results, letting livestock graze cover crops on soil if possible, and then natural fertilize it. That's a really great way to regenerate your soil.
What plant do you recommend to people who are new to gardening or farming for them to start with?
Great question.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, tomatoes are pretty easy to grow. That's not all right.
Lettuce.
That's a great. Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you. I forgot to mention those. Microgreens are. What's that?
I'm going to let you answer.
Okay. No, the microgreens are a great option because there's a market for them. What's crazy about microgreens is that they're kind of between a seedling and a sprout. Takes like 10 to 14 days for them to grow. These microgreens in their early stages have more nutritional value than most mature plants. So there's different crops you could grow, like maybe turmeric is one. Curcumin, I'm not sure which one's the plant, which one's the derivative, but oregano, cilantro. I mean, go to like Whole Foods or Sprouts to see look at the different herbs and plants that grow there, the organics, and so it's as far as ease of growing, potatoes are pretty good. But if you're looking to grow to sell for a profit, just good old-fashioned supply and demand. Find where the gap is, find what people want, and fill that need. So that's my best advice.
I have a question going back to your initial statement regarding commercial farming and soil amendment. What do you think of cover crops? Do you think that
100%.
helps?
Yes. They're an excellent idea. That's one of the I think one of Gabe's principles is armor on the soil and a living root in the soil is for as long during the year as possible, even during the winter. So with one possible cover crop would be hard red winter wheat. So we plant in the September, and it goes dormant during the fall and the winter, and then reemerges during the spring, and we harvest in June or July. So I've heard of people using hard red winter wheat and radishes as your winter cover crops. And Gabe Brown has done a lot of experimenting with those cover crops as well.
So, with all the technology, are there cover crops that reduce, weeds and hold back weeds? So
Absolutely.
it reduces
Yep.
pesticides?
For sure.
Can that ever be kind of a common best practice instead of pesticides?
Oh, absolutely. It should be.
what
Industrial
is
hemp is a great crop as well.
Which one? Say it again. Oh, hemp.
Hemp,
Oh, nice.
yes. Yeah, there's a really good industrial hemp farm in Kansas called South Bend Industrial Hemp near Great Bend. And they've done amazing work in 5 years. I mean, they started in 2019. They figured out how to grow, and now they've got their own processing plant. They harvest the crop for herd and fiber, and even they're selling animal bedding to end users. So it's vertically integrated, and hemp is a great cover crop because it's that leaf canopy covers the soil, and doesn't let the weeds to get the sunshine or the solar energy to grow. So yeah, there's plenty of great. Yeah.
Will they ever give farmers subsidies, bonuses to grow those sort of crops?
I doubt it. The subsidies are still skewed towards wheat, corn, soybeans, and cotton. And hemp is still, even though hemp is legal nationwide when Trump signed the Farm Bill in 2018, it's still been slow going because states like Kansas, I think you have like a lot of cartels they don't want the competition. And I mean, it sounds like a I use that word intentionally because a lot of these industries like law enforcement, big ag, big pharma, they don't want the competition. They don't want hemp to become legal, so cannabis becomes legal, so they can't bust people for weed and throw people in prison. And big ag doesn't want the competition for wheat, corn, and traditional crops. But the real problem for these traditional crops isn't hemp. It's your economic trends. With foreign and domestic demand going down and the margins, there's no upside for these crops. So really, it's the economic trends that are working against them. It's not hemp. And they need to realize that, and the sooner the better.
Oh, well, thanks for the talk tonight. Gosh, I have so much to say, but one thing I wanted to ask you about is I've been seeing a lot that's going on with like Otis Miller, and there's another guy that's a younger guy that I've seen interviewed, and they talk about how the states are making them sign contracts. There's small farms and making them do it, and then once they sign it, they're now privy to the government's whatever. And what they're finding is that they don't have to follow that law. They can just reject it. There's a lot of pressure from the USDA or US
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you for sure. Yeah.
So my question is, are we doing that here in Colorado? Do we have that same liberty and or the ability to just say no?
Great question. Given who's in charge in Colorado, I'd probably say it's not real agriculture friendly. The Polis administration has been, very anti-agriculture in a lot of ways. But there is one workaround. I heard Joel Salatin in a recent podcast say the reason why Amos Miller got in trouble is because he had what's called a private membership association, and you have to be careful how you put these together. If you don't have the right verbiage or legal setup, it's kind of like setting up an LLC and having what they call piercing the corporate veil. So it doesn't give you that protection. But PMAs are great. A friend of mine has a PMA and is
What is a PM?
Oh, private membership association.
Okay, so that's a different association that gets you outside of the regulations.
Correct.
A little bit.
And a lot of
Because it's about going from the producer to the buyer directly, right? Something to do bypass the distributor.
That's a CSA. That's a kind of community share association.
Okay,
that's
go ahead.
different. But a private membership association, there's a lot of these big organizations, I think like American Lung Association, American Heart Association, they're PMAs. So unless they commit some egregious act, and I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know all the details, but technically they're out of the public domain. So there's a great website that you can check out if you want to set one up. It's pmapower.org. That's pmapower.org. And that's the gentleman that my friend who set up the PMA for my friend here in town.
3 more questions.
Okay.
What would you recommend to today to consumers? For instance, is going to Whole Food a good idea, or are you just paying a premium for nothing? Are there some vegetables where you're like, don't buy that ever? Or, what can we as consumers do today?
Great question. And it's hard to say. I think I know there are certain barcodes on products that let you know if it's really organic or it's been used with chemicals. And I know there's videos online that can show you how to do that. I just think you have to use kind of your own senses, like look at whether it's like strawberries, blueberries, or any other produce. It's hard to describe, but if it just smells or seems healthy, then go ahead and buy it. The organic label has been kind of really abused and misused. So even if something is technically organic, if a producer doesn't use chemicals on his land, there are plenty of other farmers around the area that the chemicals could, if you get the wind going in the right direction, could drift onto that person's land as well. So the organic label isn't as, I guess, trustworthy as it should be. I would say the best way you could do it is just to go directly to farmers that don't use chemicals or synthetic fertilizers. That's kind of a tough thing to do because you have to be really educated. You have to do some research and ask questions on that. There's really not an easy answer, but that's the best answer I can have for you.
My question is similar to that one. Like, if we're on the consumer end of things, like you're on the producer end, what can we do to pull these products through into the marketplace? And I'm not a big fan of Whole Foods. I know I'll put a plug in here for Natural Grocers. I think they're the only ones in the metro area that I really trust to get organic food. But also, a lot of small farmers. I live up in Boulder County. There's a lot of places you can source directly for the farmers there. But how do, in this agricultural thing that you're involved in, how do you scale it right? I mean, how big a farm do you need to be independent as a farmer and viable? If you were advising small, younger people today to go into this, what do you say? You need 100 acres or 5 acres or what?
Oh no, not 100 acres. I think I've seen, and again, this could be clickbait. I'm not sure. I've seen video titles saying you can feed a family for 1/4 of an acre. I don't know. That may be extended, but it could be. I would recommend if you're gonna, for a farm, if you want to have more than just crops and produce, if you have enough room, say for like maybe chickens or maybe even enough for beef cattle, one head of, one steer, maybe. But I'd recommend a blend of crops and then livestock. Sheep are good, yeah, absolutely. Sheep are, they don't eat as much. They can.
We have 6.
Oh, awesome, yeah. No, sheep are a great option. Hen laying and egg laying and meat chickens are good options as well. So it all depends on your resources. And again, we're in a semi-arid area, so there's not enough grass. With livestock, let's put like cattle and swine, it'll take a lot more hay and feed to get them to market. So yeah, I think chickens and sheep are good options.
Quail.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's good to know.
In Arizona,
Okay.
and the people around me, a lot of them have more quail than they have chickens and turkeys and ducks. Because they're small, and they're more agreeable, and their eggs are good.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So thank you so much, Brian, for having this talk. I really appreciate you coming out and doing all this. I was wondering if you were familiar with IPM, Integrated Pest Management, at all. Being a bio major, learned about it in school. Two examples that I know, one are being trap crops. So you can plant and disperse trap crops in between your actual crop, and the pests will go to those crops generally and kind of congregate there, and you can mitigate pests that way. And then I grew up in a really small town in northern New York, and everyone thinks New York City. It's a lot bigger than the city. Mostly dairy farms up north, and one of the farms up there actually used pheromones to mitigate pests. I don't know exactly what they did, but they used some sort of pest pheromone to mitigate against pests, which was really cool. I wonder if you'd ever heard about anything like that.
I'm not too familiar with that, but I do know that certain farmers will blend crops together. One of the worst things we've done in agriculture is rely on monoculture growing. Just like we just grow wheat here, corn here, soybeans here. And in nature, you don't find that. You find a variety of crops and plants all together. So definitely when you have like with cover crops, I say cover crops are like a party. The more the merrier, you know. So it depends on your moisture, your environment, soil type, and so on. But when you have a variety of cover crops, you have different root structures. Some are shallow root plants, some are deeper root plants, some have different leaf sizes and angles. So think of like these different cover crops as different natural solar panels to more efficiently convert solar energy into plant energy. So that's the last question.
One more.
One more. Okay. All right.
Thank you. So this is kind of a follow-up to my earlier demographic question, and I was being a little facetious about the Purple Hair people. I've had a Denver urban garden plot for 2 years, and there are a lot of people like that, and they've all been delightful. And going off of what this prior gentleman said, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on how is the shift in going to these smaller and more organic farms going to solve the problem of supplying the food grid, especially considering that you have vast distances, you have lots of open acreage where people aren't living, and then also with some of that acreage, you're finding, either foreign nationals buying large farms, or Bill Gates being a major farm holder of farmland, and just wondering what your thoughts are on how this is going to shake out and try to provide enough quality food to, let's say, the masses. Thank you.
Great question, and that's I kind of wondered about had that question or doubt as well. But after looking at what Joel Salton does with his operation at Polyface Farms, and then what Gabe Brown does with his operation in North Dakota, they're stacking, different types of, and with Gabe, they grow a lot of things. They, obviously your regular crops, I think in bread with certain kinds of heirloom grains. They develop their own type of bourbon called Boar Taint Bourbon. Kind of an interesting name. What's that?
Bees.
Oh yeah, absolutely, bees and honey for sure. So I think it may take some time to adjust and stack these different food sources and crops and in operation. But as far as feeding, if a regenerative operation is done correctly, I think it's more than able to feed all of us, and with a lot less land than we think we need to previously. So that's my 2 cents there.
That's our talk. Give it up for Brian.